One moment, everything was normal. A cup sat on a table. A bird flew in the sky. People walked on the ground, then it stopped. All of it. Gravity just quit. It vanished. Poof. Gone. Not just a little less. Totally absent. Everywhere. In an instant. And then things got weird. Really weird fast. The cup on the table didn't stay there. It floated, just gently lifted off. The bird in the sky? It kept going up. Not flying, just rising. People on the ground felt it. The ground wasn't there anymore. It felt like standing on nothing. Because they were. Everyone started to float. Up. Slowly at first, then faster. Imagine that feeling. Your feet leave the floor. Your chair isn't holding you. Your bed lets you go. You just drift. A slow rise, like a balloon. But without the balloon, and without a ceiling to stop you. This wasn't just a local thing. It wasn't just your house or your street. It was the whole world. The whole planet, everything, every single thing on Earth. It all started to go up. Or just stay still, no pull down, at all. It would be quiet. At first, then maybe screams. Then more quiet, because screams don't last forever. And you can't scream much when you're busy rising. Outside, things were worse. Much worse. Cars on roads just lifted. They didn't crash. They just went up. Trucks, buses, anything not held down by something else. Anything that can move, moved. Up. Buildings were a problem. They are heavy. They are built to stand on the ground. But the ground wasn't pulling them anymore. The foundations might hold for a bit. But what about everything inside? Furniture, computers, people. They all started to drift around inside. Bumping into walls, bumping into each other. It was a chaotic dance, a slow motion collision. And then the air we breathe. It has weight. It's pulled down by gravity. That's why it stays around Earth. That's why we have an atmosphere. But with gravity gone, the air had nothing to hold it. It started to spread out, to diffuse into space. It wouldn't happen instantly, but it would happen fast enough. The pressure would drop, people would feel it in their ears, like climbing a very tall mountain. But much, much faster than it would be like being in space. No oxygen, no pressure. This means breathing would become impossible very quickly, maybe a minute, 2 minutes. Before everything went dark for most people, anyone outside would be exposed to the vacuum of space. Anyone inside would just have a few more moments of trapped air. But the air was only one problem. A huge one, yes, but not the only one. Think about water, oceans, rivers, lakes, billions and billions of tons of water. It all sits on the Earth's surface, pulled down, held in place. But now, no pull. The oceans would become massive, slow-moving blobs. Water molecules want to stick together, so they wouldn't just scatter instantly. They would form giant planet-sized spheres, or maybe more like a collection of massive, tumbling water asteroids. They would lift off the Earth, slowly at first, then accelerating, drifting into space. Imagine seeing that, the blue planet turning brown, the seas leaving, a vast, endless amount of water just going, leaving behind empty ocean beds, giant craters, mud, then just dry rock. And what about the Earth itself? It's a giant ball, held together by its own gravity. But if all gravity is gone, what then? The Earth is spinning. It rotates very fast. That spin creates outward force, centrifugal force. Because gravity usually keeps everything together against that force. But with no gravity, the Earth would start to tear itself apart. Not instantly, not like an explosion, but slowly. The loose parts would start to separate. Mountains. They're just giant rocks. Held to the ground by gravity, they would start to lift, to break away. Like giant dust motes, rising, the crust of the Earth, the solid ground we stand on. It's made of tectonic plates. These plates shift and grind. Gravity helps keep them mostly together. But without it, the plates would start to pull away from each other. They would lift, break apart. The Earth would stop being a solid ball. It would become a collection of large, slowly separating pieces. And what about the core? The molten iron core. It's under immense pressure, held by gravity. Without that pressure, it would expand, burst out, creating a truly catastrophic event, spewing molten rock and gas into the void where the atmosphere used to be. But let's rewind a bit. Let's think about those first few minutes. The terror, the confusion. You're in your house. The alarm clock floats off the table, your coffee cup, your pet cat, they all just rise. You push off the floor and you keep going, you hit the ceiling, but the ceiling isn't solid enough to stop you for long. Or maybe you bounce. A slow, gentle bounce, up and down, until the air starts to get thin, until your lungs burn. Outside, the chaos is on another level. Planes in the sky? They lose all lift. They just become giant pieces of metal that float. They would drift out of control until the air got too thin to support them, and they were just space junk. Helicopters, same thing. Just useless machines, birds, insects, anything that flies using air. They would keep going up until there's no air, and then they would freeze. Or they would just keep rising, tiny frozen specks. Or cars on highways, they would just lift, drivers would panic, slam on brakes, but brakes need friction. Friction needs weight, no friction. The cars would just drift, bumping into each other in slow motion. Until they too were just drifting silent metal boxes. The world would quickly become very, very silent. No wind, no sound waves. Sound needs air to travel. So as the air left, silence would fall. A deep, profound, terrifying silence, broken only by the last gasps of a dying world. Think about a city. Skyscrapers, giant towers. They are built to withstand many forces. Wind, earthquakes. But they are also built to be pulled down by gravity. Their weight keeps them stable. Without that weight, their structure would be compromised. The materials used to build them, steel and concrete, are strong. But they are strong in certain directions. Without gravity, they are not designed to hold up to the new forces. Or lack of forces. These massive structures, perhaps they would hold for a time. But as the earth itself started to separate, as the ground underneath them began to pull away, the buildings would eventually break apart. They would splinter, sending concrete, glass, and steel shards tumbling upwards into the ever-expanding void. This isn't just about Earth. Gravity is everywhere. It holds the planets in orbit around the sun. It holds the moon in orbit around Earth. So, if gravity disappears, the moon would no longer orbit Earth. It would simply drift away. In a straight line, straight out into space. No longer a companion, just a runaway rock. And Earth itself, it would no longer orbit the sun. It would just continue in the direction it was going at the moment gravity disappeared. A straight line out of the solar system, out into the darkness. All the other planets too. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. They would all break free from the sun's pull. They would all just drift in their own directions, leaving the sun, which by the way would also stop pulling itself together. The sun is a star, a giant ball of gas, hydrogen, helium, held together by its own immense gravity. That gravity creates the pressure and heat needed for nuclear fusion. That's what makes it shine. That's what gives us light and heat. Without gravity, the sun would start to expand. Or it would no longer be a contained sphere. It would diffuse. The hot gas would just spread out. The fusion would stop. The sun would die. It wouldn't explode like a supernova. It would just fizzle out. A slow, expanding gas cloud. No more light, no more heat. So, in the span of perhaps a few hours or a day, the entire solar system would be gone. Those planets drifting, the sun dispersing, no light, no heat, just cold, dark emptiness. Back on Earth, if anyone could somehow survive the atmosphere loss, the water loss, the ground breaking apart. Bits of themselves, all drifting away. Food and water. Imagine trying to get either. All food would just float. Unless it was in a sealed container, it would be exposed to the vacuum. Water, as we said, would form blobs and drift off. So even if you could breathe, you would starve and dehydrate. Very quickly. Power infrastructure, power lines, substations, generators, they are all built with gravity in mind. The power lines sag. They are held by poles. Poles are stuck in the ground. If the ground lifts, if the poles lift, the lines break. Power goes out everywhere, instantly. No communication, no internet, no lights. There's no heat. The scale of this event is hard to grasp. It's not just a disaster, it's an unmaking. A fundamental change in the rules of the universe. And what about life that needs gravity? Like us. Our bodies are built for gravity, our bones, our muscles, they work against gravity. Our blood circulates against it, our inner ear balance systems. They all rely on gravity. In zero gravity, our bodies change. Astronauts experience this. Bones lose density. Muscles weaken. Blood rushes to the head. But that's in true zero-G, in space, with an atmosphere and protection. This scenario is worse. It's zero-G combined with no air, no water, no solid ground, and eventually, no sun. So, even if someone had a perfect sealed suit with oxygen and water, what would they stand on? Or sit on? Nothing. They would drift. Forever. Until their suit failed. Or their supplies ran out. This thought experiment quickly becomes about the absolute end of everything we know. Not just a natural disaster like an earthquake or a flood. Those are local. They are temporary. This is global. This is permanent. This is cosmic. What about the very fabric of the universe? Well, gravity isn't just on Earth. It holds galaxies together. It forms black holes. It shapes the cosmos. If gravity disappeared everywhere, then the universe as we understand it would cease to exist. Galaxies, massive collections of stars, gas, and dust, would begin to separate. Stars would drift away from each other. Nebulae would dissipate. Black holes, formed by intense gravity, would unravel. They are singularities of space-time curvature. If gravity's gone, what defines them? They would no longer be black holes, they would just become expanding clouds of matter. The universe would become a vast, ever-expanding, thin soup of disconnected particles. No structure, no order, just ultimate desolate emptiness. But let's not go that far out. Let's keep it close to home, to Earth, to people. The immediate reaction would be pure, unadulterated panic, terror, followed by a horrifying acceptance. Imagine being in an elevator. It suddenly stops being held down. It floats up or stays stuck. You float inside, no way out, no emergency services. No one to call, no one to help. In a hospital, surgeons operating, tools float away. The patient lifts off the table. Blood floats out of the incision, a nightmare scenario. For doctors, nurses, patients, all slowly drifting, struggling for breath as the air thins. Children in schools, teachers trying to maintain order, impossible, books, desks, chairs, students, all bumping into each other. Until the lights go out, and the air runs out. It's a complete, instant breakdown of society. Every rule we have, every system, every plan, every technology, all based on gravity. All rendered useless in a moment. No power, no water, no food, no communication. No shelter, no air, no ground, no escape. The psychological impact on anyone who survived the initial atmosphere loss would be unimaginable. Extreme isolation, extreme sensory deprivation. The only sounds would be internal. Your own breathing until it stopped. Your own heartbeat, your own thoughts. And what would those thoughts be? Fear, regret, despair. A profound sense of loss. Watching the world break apart around you. Seeing familiar objects drift away into inky blackness, the Earth as a planet would literally cease to be. Its core would expand, its crust would fragment, its oceans would drift into space. Its atmosphere would dissipate. It would become a cloud of rocks, dust, and water ice, slowly spreading out into the void. This process would take time, hours, days, weeks, but the outcome would be inevitable. There would be no last stand, no heroes, no hope, just a quiet, cold dispersal. What about the tiny things? Bacteria, viruses, spores. Could they survive? Some might for a time in the cold vacuum of space, protected within tiny fragments of debris. But with no energy source, no protection from radiation, no host, their existence would be meaningless. They would just drift, inert. This scenario, the complete disappearance of gravity, is not a simple natural disaster. It's an event that challenges the very laws of physics that govern our universe. If gravity is gone, then the universe itself is fundamentally changed. It would mean that the initial expansion of the universe after the Big Bang would have continued unchecked. No stars, no galaxies, no planets would have ever formed. Everything would just be an endless, uniform, cold, dark, thin soup of particles. So if gravity suddenly disappeared now, it wouldn't just mean the end of life on Earth. It would mean the universe would revert to that state of utter formlessness. All the structure, all the beauty, all the complexity, all the life that gravity allowed to form and hold together would unravel. It's a thought that truly makes you appreciate the constant, unseen force that holds everything in place. The force that keeps your feet on the ground, that keeps the air around you, that keeps the oceans in their basins, that keeps the Earth orbiting the sun, that keeps the stars burning. Without it, there's just nothing. Or rather, a chaotic unmaking of everything. A slow, silent dance of dissolution. A final goodbye to all matter, all form, all life, all cosmos. It's not a quick bang. It's more like a sigh, a fading away, a gradual erasure of existence. From the smallest speck of dust to the largest galaxy. All because one fundamental force decided to call it quits. And you'd be one of those specks. Drifting, watching, until you couldn't. Until there was nothing left to see, nothing left to feel, nothing left to be. Just the vast, empty, indifferent cold. Forever. This idea, this sudden loss of gravity, it's not just a science fiction concept. It's a way to understand how truly fragile our existence is, how everything we know, every single thing, depends on these invisible rules. These constant, silent forces that they hold us here, on this planet, in this universe. And if they stop, so do we. And so does everything else. The world would unravel. Every piece of infrastructure would fail. Every natural process would halt. The atmosphere would boil away into space. The oceans would form vast, cold, free-floating masses of water. The land would shatter. The earth itself would become a cloud of debris. It would not be a pretty sight. It would be the ultimate emptiness, a silence so profound. It would crush any hope of understanding, of meaning, of life. Every single atom that makes up you, me, the world, the stars, is subject to gravity. It's the silent architect of everything. Take it away and the architect's work crumbles. Not in fire, but in a cold, lonely drift into oblivion. And that's it. That's what would happen. And no more. Just the end of everything.